stick with the distance and we'll start doing the distant buildings. Now these are all in shade, but I don't want to just do it all blue or purple because it's not going to be very interesting. So I'm going to just go darker than what we've been going. So we have a couple of different colours. Actually that colour's not quite right, but we'll stick with it for the time being. While that's still wet, I'm going to just drop a couple of other little colours into it. Really just to hint at what else is there. So I mean, for instance, we've got some greenish windows in there. We'll drop a little bit of green in. And let that just blend. And the inside one, well, it's yellowish. We'll just do that all yellowish. Keeps it easy. Keeps it simpler. And then at the bottom, just soften it all. Let it all just disappear. So if you remember, you do something and it's not quite what you expected or not quite what you wanted, just soften it. Okay, the bridge, the parapet of the bridge is slightly highlighted. So I'm going to use that little vague line just to give me that nice little highlight. Because the bridge, of course, is in shade as well. So it's going to be quite dark too. And it's a brick bridge, so if we go reds, browns, blues, all sorts of things. But we'll start with the sort of reddy brown colour. I've just dipped into completely the wrong paint there. Ultramarine and burnt sienna are always a good source of browns and greys and things like that. Trees, as I said, are just a big dark shape in order to give me some contrast with the buildings in front of them. So I'm just going to go dark. There's no point in me going terribly light with any of the trees because there's not really that much. There's relative light within the trees, but that's only because most of the trees are so dark. Now, what I'm going to do here is just soften the outside a little bit. And that will give me the sort of lighter parts that I need. I'm going to need to go darker than that. That isn't dark enough. The trees are behind the bridge, so therefore I can do a nice little straight edge there. Keep going. This is where the panic sets in slightly because, not because I'm panicking about the trees, because I'm panicking about the trees drying before I get them all in. Well, when I say panic, I mean, I'm talking relatively here. I don't think I need a medication or anything. I think I'll be... Right. So, right, that's fine. Now, that looks ridiculous at the minute because we've got this big mass of green that's sort of jumping out at us. But hopefully, he said, hopefully, by the time I get these done, then we should be okay. Little rooftop there. I want the rooftop to be quite light. So, again, maybe I'm probably doing a bit too much there. So, what I do, I get my razor brush and just soften that a little bit so it's just not as harsh. Again, in here, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to want to do in there. I'm not even quite sure what. I don't really like leaving spaces for people, so I'm just going to smudge that a little bit so that it's sort of disappearing. So I'm using, the only two blues I have in the box are ultramarine and phthalo blue. Now that's what happens when you allow weak to go into strong, you do get a cauliflower. Now why am I not trying to fix that? Well, I'm not trying to fix it because it's a pointless exercise. If you try to fix most faults in watercolour, you make the fault worse. So why bother? Now I'm going to do this boat as I see it. So there's a sort of darker blue running in the inside. It's so light in the centre, so we'll just make it light there. there's a bit comes across like this, and there's a little bit of blue in there. It's dark in there, and there is a little bit of light running down. And then we've got the back end of the boat, and the back end of the boat will be soft. Within the boat we've got some darks, so we'll get some burnt sienna into that ultramarine. A little bit more. And again, just trying to make the edge of the shadow a little bit more interesting, rather than just have it square, you know, so there could be chimneys sticking up, there could be aerials on the chimneys. And getting that all done in one wash. Shadow running across there that allows me to connect that shadow to that shadow, so I'm getting lots of nice connections going. Again, we've got a little curtain there, we've got an awning there, so to get the effect of the awning we need to darken underneath it, as we've done there. Not put in the full complement of mirroring posts. In fact, what I'll do is, if I'm never not quite sure about things, soften them a little bit. In the canal we've got these lovely deep green reflections of, well, it's the water too, but it's also the trees that are reflecting. Now this is another point. I said earlier on that when we did the first trees, that it was all a bit of a bit worrying, because big, bold, dark mass, and the same sort of thing applies to this. This is a bit worrying as well. Let's see. So in the distance, I want to keep things reasonably light, but as we get closer, I'm going to get a lot darker. And in the distance, it's just that in the distance the light's a little bit more obvious. Now these aren't reflections of anything in particular, they're just little marks really. Carrying on then. Let that just run down into it. I'm trying to get this sort of almost liquid look to the closer ones. These really don't apply to the more distant parts, but they do apply to the closer parts where you start to get these little ripply effects. Okay, finally some darks. So again, ultramarine and burnt sienna. And this is where I can go back into areas I've already been in. And we start to get some extra little strong flashes of dark. All just in part, not too much. Too much, it starts to look too much like a pen and wash, but with just a little bit in, it creates quite a nice effect.